Hi, and welcome to VoiceOverClass.com's tutorial on how to use iTunes to convert your audio files into an MP3 format. First, let me take a second to explain why anyone would even want to do something like convert a perfectly good WAV or AIF or WMA or FLAC or any of the other tons of available audio formats into an MP3. The first reason is because an MP3 is a compressed sound file. Unlike formats like WAV and AIF, which can be quite large, an MP3 is small, and unless you've recorded a whole book or something, you should have no trouble attaching an MP3 to an email and sending it off to whoever you're auditioning for. The second reason is that although an MP3 is not the only compressed file format out there, it is, at least at the moment, the most universal. Other formats like FLAC or AAC may sound just as good or possibly even a little bit better, but there's no guarantee that the computer listening to your file on the other end will be able to read them. Okay, let's get started. First, let's take a look at the iTunes interface. We want to make sure that we're in the library under the heading Music. Now we're going to take a look at the descriptors along the top of the iTunes library. These are the little categories that give you all sorts of information on the file you're using. They can tell you what the name of the file is, what kind of file it is, how long it is, what album it's from, and etc. and so forth. It just seems to go on forever. But there's really only two categories that we're concerned about right now. We want to know the name of the file we're using and what kind of file it is. Now we definitely need to see the kind option, so if for some reason it's not displayed, I'll show you how to bring it up. You're going to point at one of the other categories. In this case, I'm going to choose Name. You're going to right-click on a Windows machine, Control-click on a Mac, and you'll see a pop-up menu. From the pop-up menu, you're going to go down, it's all alphabetical, and you're going to choose Kind. If there's no check next to it, you want to click it. And there you go. Now I'm going to go out to my desktop and open the Exercise Files folder. For those of you that haven't downloaded the exercise files from voiceoverclass.com, feel free to use audio files that you've recorded in whatever program you prefer. But for those of you who want to follow along, let's open it up. I've given you two different file types here. I've given you a WAV file, which was recorded on a Windows machine, and an AIF file, which was recorded on a Mac. iTunes reads both of these files and actually many, many more, so it doesn't matter which one you choose, but I'm going to choose the WAV file. Okay, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to click on the WAV file and drag it right into the library. And here you go. We see the name, Conversion Track 1, and we see that it is a WAV or WAVE audio file. Now we're ready to do our first conversion. We're going to point at the name of the file. We're going to right-click if we're on a Windows machine and Control-click if we're on a Mac, and a drop-down menu is going to pop up. From the drop-down menu, we're going to choose Create MP3 Version. Now, if you don't see this option, you may see Create AAC Version. It means you have not set up iTunes to do your MP3 encoding yet. And you may want to look at the video on setting up iTunes as an MP3 encoder. So we're going to click Create MP3 Version, and actually that was kind of fast. That all happened up there. We'll see that later in the tutorial. A little alarm bell sounds, and now you see that you have a duplicate track. Here we see Conversion Track 1, and there's an MP3 version of it. Now you may notice there's a slight time discrepancy here between the two files. The WAV file is 5 seconds, the converted MP3 file is 6 seconds. I'm not exactly sure why that happens, and I've certainly never heard a difference in the two files. So for now, just ignore it. We're going to work with the MP3 file. Click on the name of the track. We're going to drag it out to the desktop. And there you have it. A fully independent MP3 file ready to be attached to an email and sent off. I want to take a second here to talk about batch encoding. Sometimes you have multiple files that will need to be converted. Either you've done several different auditions or multiple takes. Well, iTunes is not only capable of converting multiple formats, but it can also perform multiple conversions at the same time. So let's go back to our exercise files. We're going to reopen that. Here I see my WAV file and my AIF file. I'm going to click and drag to select them both. I'm going to drag them right out onto the iTunes library. And I don't need that anymore. Alright, I'm going to select both files. I'm going to control click on a Windows machine. I'm going to Apple click on a Mac to select both. And in the blue, I'm going to right click or control click. I'm going to create MP3 version. And when I do, I want you to pay attention to what happens up here. You're going to see a little progress bar telling you what's happening. And there you have it. We can click on kind to organize them alphabetically by file type. And a control click or Apple click to select both. And drag them right out to the desktop.